956. First up this evening from the Tilt and Talk podcast, it's Craig Courtney, lifelong Blue Nose. Evening to you, Craig.
Evening all.
How are you feeling about things at the moment then at your club?
It's a disgruntlement in terms of the way things are occurring. I think, firstly, these people calling for Lee to go, it's got to stop. You know, you look back over time, this team that's there now and the squad of players, firstly, vast majority is not Lee's. It's also players that have, throughout our last set of management, been with them. So we need to look at the playing situation rather than the management. So back Lee. You know, I just ask everybody, back him. You know, we need that support.
Has he made mistakes?
I think he'd be open and say he's made mistakes. And as fans, you know, everybody's got their own opinions as to what's occurred. But you look at it in terms of the way that he saved us last season, and he did save us, you know, weirdly with the group of players that he's got around him now. Then he's brought in a couple of additions throughout the summer, and probably not the players that he originally wanted, but he has worked with those, and we started well, and we have gone through a bit of a rot. But it's fair to say we've also lost people through really silly suspensions. You mentioned the Albion and their discipline. Actually, our discipline disappeared as well. The injuries haven't helped. And, yeah, I think, you know, there's a few people also that don't necessarily want to be at the club that you know, really they should be playing for a move to get themselves out of there instead of not turning up. And I think as fans, it's fair to say we have seen people that haven't given what they've given in the past, and it's a shame. But hopefully he can turn things around. And the market at the moment, yes, you know, we've only bought a couple of people in. They are the loans.
What did you make of him on Saturday? Sorry, Teddy Mengi, obviously on latest one online from Man United. How did you think he did against Plymouth?
Oh, do you know, he was my player in the match.
Yeah.
Because he was good at going forwards. He wasn't afraid to pick out a pass. He also wasn't afraid to get involved. I mean, he nearly scored through a non-really effort, you know. So he stood out for me, as did the young lads. You know, Joe Bellingham, when he came on, I can't recall him giving the ball away. You know, and for a 16-year-old to come on and have that sort of impact is great. The younger lads also coming on towards the end of the game, they gave a lot, and they're giving it all for the shirt, which is what we ask of any of those players that are there.
Yeah, and I mean, Lebo, you actually, said after the game that they've been. He said we need help, but there was a lack of drive, there was a lack of desire, there was a lack of energy. It was just really, really flat, and you went out the cup with a whimper, didn't you? I mean, I think a lot of people were saying, well, this is a potential upset here, but to go 2 hours against a League One side, admittedly a decent League One side, and not even manage one shot on target, those players who went out there on Saturday are better than that, aren't they? So why aren't they performing?
That's the million-dollar question, Dan. So I think if we could all answer it, we would all be absolutely sorted and we'd be pushing for Premier League. You know, it's simple as that. If we can find out what makes them tick. But, I mean, I watched the game, and I've got to say, we should have lost the game 3 or 4-0. You know, we were lucky to get away with a 1-0. And that's how disappointing it was. The situation around Lee and this calling for his head is just like I say, it's got to stop. But also, the ownership situation needs to be clarified. And there's a lot at the moment of things going on and things being said around boycotts at the ground or go and demonstrate. And, you know, and actually, again, everybody's got a right to put things forward, but we need to do it as fans in the right way. A boycott just doesn't work. They've club have had money up front.
Yeah, if you've already bought your season ticket, then you've paid for your seat. If you demonstrate, you probably feel better. But in reality, the owners ain't now, as far as we're aware, never go anywhere near the place. So it's not going to impact them. So how do you get heard? Because you could. I mean, people have said to me now that obviously Blue Nose is used to up and downs, but they're almost feeling numb to it all now, which is really worrying. I mean, anger's one thing. apathy's the real danger here, isn't it? Because once you get to that stage and you do get people who just can't be bothered anymore and are falling out of love with it because they feel the club's lost its soul, that's when you really have got big problems. As I remember watching, with my team in the 80s when the Batties came in.
I think you've already... The definitely disgruntlement is there, and people are definitely turning away from the club. The way to do things is we've got to think as fans about the right ways, and one of the first things is despite not seeing people coming in, we need to be there to support that team that goes out on the pitch. We want that team to give everything they possibly can for the badge, and we want to be there to support the league. As a show, the one thing I can say we're doing is on the 24th of this month, we are hosting a Q&A session with the Birmingham City Trust. And we're aiming to do, and get answers to as much as we possibly can around what's happening at the club, what have the Trust done, how are they involved, and encourage people to ask those questions as well. What do they want to hear? Because once you've got a link into the club, that's when potentially as fans we can start doing more
and
get a voice. Yeah,
because we don't know. I mean, who owns the club? Is it the same people who own the club who own the ground? Is it? There's just so many questions. That's on Monday the 24th. So obviously you need to come on here, if you will, before then, or even on the night.
Definitely.
I'm not sure because I don't normally do Mondays. Whoever's here on the Monday night, just to come on and plug it again, and we'll talk more nearer the time, but. It's getting to the point now where it feels as if it's coming to a head, this, doesn't it? And it can't go on otherwise. Are you fearing another battle to stay up again?
If we don't get the heads through the door, then yeah. Because as much as the youngsters are there, and we're not saying they're not skillful, because actually they're beginning to show that they really are, and they could get us to the level. I think we all know that putting a 16-year-old out on the pitch and asking them to play 90 minutes against accomplished, sometimes Premiership players, let alone Championship, they'll lose their confidence if we go out and get drubbings. And I think, in all honesty, what we need to do is we need to steady the ship. I really do hope that we don't get into a relegation fight. I think we are capable of staying away from it if the players that are at the club turn out the way that they have in the past, and whatever the disgruntlement is, whether it's, is there an upset in the dressing room, it needs to be aired, they need to get rid of it and show us as fans what they actually can do. And then the other thing is we need as fans to be backing them. It was silent on Saturday at St Andrews, and I know the football wasn't brilliant, but there was still no atmosphere. It's often been said St Andrews can be the 12th man, and it's, people don't like going it. Alex Ferguson has said it's one of the worst grounds he's been to when the crowd are getting on the backs of the opposition. We need that back, and we need that support from everybody. As hard as it is, get behind them, back them. They can then only do what we ask them to do. And if they turn out and they lose 3 or 4-0, but they've tried, we understand. If they don't turn up at all, that's when the frustration grows.
Craig Courtney, Tilton Talk Show podcast. Good. Thanks for coming on this evening, Craig. Next.